I thought it was when it came out of the water. I mean, we were this far away from them, so I couldn't tell how big it was. I didn't think it was that big, but of course they roll in 5 minutes and fucking stick a giant, like.
Yeah. Right, the last one's the party.
Right.
Right through the middle of us.
Right through the middle of us. Like, come on, guys. We'll see. I don't know if it's gonna make it. It seems to be doing better. We're gonna hang on to it for a while, but.
See if you can belly it and cradle it and not kill it.
Okay.
Yep, that'll be the least stress possible.
All right.
If you're able to do it.
She's definitely got a lot more color back now. She was getting kind of pale and a little bit red, but she looks a lot better now. So, how you doing, sweetheart? What is going on, everybody? Noah with Madison Angling, and I am out today with my buddy Todd Ackerman. We were doing some muskie fishing, and there is a fish in our boat. It's a very, very big fish. We did not catch this fish. So what happened is there's a couple of older guys out here muskie fishing. They actually kind of cut us off, me and another boat, and end up sticking a fish. Of course, the guy who cuts you off ends up catching a fish and you don't. And it was two older guys. They got the fish in the net after what I would say was probably way too long of a fight. And they had the fish hung high in the net for a solid 5 minutes that its head was for sure pretty much out of the water. They had it in the boat for almost another 5 minutes, and by that point I'm like, all right, we need to go over and check on this thing and make sure these guys aren't killing it, which I already kind of had my mind made up that this fish is dead. We rolled over there, they had it back in the water, hanging on to it, and I asked them, hey, how's it doing? It was out of the water a long time. The water's pretty warm. Today is actually the last day that we are muskie fishing for a long time. The water's just about touching 80, so we are done muskie fishing after this morning. Actually, we're pretty much done now. And so anyway, I asked them how it's doing. They're like, oh, it's breathing, it's okay, it's breathing. And they had the thing kind of pinned up against the side of the boat. Didn't look real good. It had really lousy color to it and kind of just sat there for 5-10 minutes. They made a comment that, well, we've done pretty well. We've only killed one in the last 5 years. And I was like, well, I've never killed one. Out of hundreds of fish in the boat, I've never killed one. So that didn't make me feel real good about their fish handling abilities. And they said they tried cutting hooks, they couldn't cut the hooks, and they really struggled with getting this fish undone. So anyway, if they let the fish go, they said it swam away. I saw it trying to swim. It really wasn't swimming, and sure enough, a couple minutes later, it's floating belly up, and they just left it. They didn't come back to look at it. They never came back to check on it. They never even looked back until I motored over to grab the fish, and they're like, is it floating? Well, yeah, it's dead, dude. It's floating upside down. Oh, it looked fine when we let go of it, and then they just kept going. So obviously it's taken time out of our day to be out here fishing. We were gonna switch, do some walleye fishing. The whole point of this video is to show you guys that it is possible to bring a fish back if they're not doing really well, if someone overhandles them. And don't be a jerk about people not handling fish properly. It's better to try to educate people than it is to just chew them a new one. So at any rate, the takeaway from this is make sure you have really good tools. They had really lousy hook cutters. Get yourself a pair of nip picks. Don't buy the cheap, I'm not gonna name drop, but don't buy the cheap name brand hook cutters. Get yourself a pair of nip picks. They're 40, 50 bucks. They're worth every single penny. There is no hook you are not gonna be able to cut with these. So get a good pair of nip picks. Get yourself a really good pair of super heavy duty pliers. And if a fish is hung high in the net, work as fast as you can to get the hook out. Otherwise, just get the thing's head in the water. If you've got to work on it and you need to cut hooks and it's hooked bad and it's hung high, just get the thing's head in the water. It's definitely not worth hanging onto a fish and trying to mess with it if you're going to kill it just for the sake of getting a picture of it. Just get the thing in the water. If you're worried about it getting out of the net, oh well, snap some pictures while it's in the net. At any rate, I'm going to walk through you guys what we're doing to try to bring this fish back. So we've got the fish in the live well. The water is pretty warm. It's getting up to almost 80 degrees, but I've got the aerator running. We're making sure that there's fresh water circulating in here. That fish was back in all that slop back there. Usually when you have surface weeds, the water's gonna be a lot warmer. The weeds grab a lot of the sun's energy, transfer that to the water. So we got away from that. We're out in open water, pumping the coolest water we can. We got water moving over it, and it's flat calm out here, which definitely helps. One thing you don't really wanna do with muskies, switch them back and forth like this. You don't want to be running water up into their gills backwards. You always want the water going forward. They breathe going forward, they don't breathe going backward. You can actually drown fish pulling backwards on them. So the best thing you can do is try to keep them upright. When we put this fish in the live well, it did not want to stay upright on its own. We held on to it for a solid 20 minutes, maybe even a half hour, holding it upright until she was good, sitting on her own upright, which she is now. She's breathing fine. and we're just not touching her. So see, when I just pushed on her, she kind of shook her head this way. Now she's kind of tensing up a little bit. That's a really good sign. She's starting to come back, and we're gonna give it a little bit longer. We're gonna take her away from these other boats. There's some ski boats kind of ripping around out here this morning. So we're gonna get her away from everybody. And the nice thing about where we are right now, there's actually some springs that feed into this bay back here. We're gonna take her over right to the edge of the slop where those springs start to dump that cold water in here. And that water is actually really cold down by the bottom. And so hopefully this fish will go down, sit in the bottom, recover in that more oxygen-rich water, and she's gonna be okay. But at any rate, if you have a fish that's not doing well, if you have a live well big enough, mine's about 52 inches, so this fish fits in here. It barely fits in here, which means it's a very big fish, but keep the aerator running. Don't mess with it. Don't touch it. If it's sitting upright, just leave it alone. And we're gonna very gently lift this fish back into the water. We're not gonna gill it. We're just gonna tail grab it, try to support the belly very carefully, let her go. But if you have a fish that's not doing well, or if you see somebody that didn't have a good release on a fish, please, please, please take the time to help the fish recover. There is a chance it's gonna come back. I was 99% sure this fish was dead, and there is a chance that this fish might end up dying later, kind of a delayed mortality kind of deal. But spending some time trying to bring this fish back is, I mean, already in the last, 45 minutes to an hour that we've had this fish in our possession, it's looking a lot better. So take the time. Please, please, please use the right tools. Don't go cheap on them. Get yourself a pair of Nipex. Get the Nipex brand cutters. Good pair of pliers. If they're hung high, keep their head in the water. And please be careful. Enjoy the sport. Try to educate others. But again, please be careful with these fish. They're a very, very cool resource, and we got to all work together to keep these things safe. So at any rate, hopefully you guys found this video at least useful for future reference. Again, try to educate people. Do the best you can. If you've got a fish that's not doing well, get them in the live well. If you don't have a live well, keep them in the water. If there's wind and waves, keep them facing into the wind and the waves. Water going over their head, from the head towards the tail, never the other way around. And sometimes you can actually get fish to come back. So hopefully this fish makes it, and hopefully you guys found this video at least a little bit useful, and we will see you on the next one. All right, guys, well, you just saw that fish kick off. It kicked off with some really good power, went straight down to the bottom. We let it go near some springs and some nice, cool, oxygenated water, and everything was looking pretty good. From the get-go, I did not feel very good about saving that fish, and found out the next day, my buddy Todd Berg, who actually lives on that part of the lake, saw a large fish floating from his house, went out in his boat to go check it out, and it was that fish. She did not make it. I don't really know what to say about that. I mean, it wasn't like it was two new guys that killed this fish. These guys, I've seen them out before. They're older guys that have been fishing for a long time, and they totally just didn't care about this fish. I mean, that absolutely makes me totally sick. I mean, the amount of effort that goes into stocking and maintaining these fish, especially the work that a lot of us put into that really seriously fish for these things to keep them around, keep them healthy. To see somebody just kill a fish like that because they didn't have the right tools, and frankly, it seemed like they didn't really care all that much, that really makes me upset. So for all of you new muskie fishermen and fisher ladies out there, please do your research. Make sure you're spending your money on the right things. It's not always rods, reels, and baits. It's having the right release tools, the right net, and understanding how to handle these fish. Go out with a guide. Go out with a full-time guide to learn how to properly handle these fish. Or if you have a family member or a friend who does a lot of muskie fishing, they're very serious about it, go out with them. Go with somebody who knows these fish very well and knows how to handle them properly. There's no substitute for experience, and that's pretty much all I got for you guys. If you're gonna get into this, please, please, please learn how to handle them properly. Again, no excuses for these guys. They've been around for a long time doing this, and I don't know why or how. Well, I know how that happened, but I don't know why that happened. So anyways, not a real fun video. Definitely not something that's fun to talk about, but that is something that needs to be addressed. So if you're gonna get into this, please make sure you're doing this stuff right, and see you guys on the next video.